Good day, folks. Tony Fortunato from the technology firm. Today we're going to look at some wireless site survey tips and tricks. Hope you enjoyed, folks. So before we get into this, I just want to start with a really simple statement. There's a million ways to do this. This is simply one version of the ways I do it. So take what you will from it, and you'll probably tweak it and make it your own in no time. So the first step's a plan, and this is really important. It doesn't matter if you're outside or inside. I'm doing an outside one here just because it's different. It'll catch people's attention. And please make sure if you have dual band systems, most people do, you write down 2.45 gig, whatever you're trying to do, because you'll probably have two measurements, one for each one, and just write it all out. The other reason why this is kind of important is because as you walk around, inside or outside, you'll be distracted. You'll forget where you are. And if the tool that you're using or software that you're using sends emails, it'd be nice to remember this is the first thing I did, the second thing I did, and so on and so on. So get a plan together before you even step out the door. Now I'm going to use the NetAlly AirCheck G2 as well as my cell phone. You'll see that in a bit. But the reason why I'm showing you the NetAlly AirCheck is because it has a couple of neat features that you might find helpful or you might want to look for in the tool that you use. This is not a promotion for the tool at all. I don't sell them. I just think it's a pretty neat little tool and I think it's worth looking at. So as you do your tests, as I walk around with this thing and I do my tests everywhere, it automatically sends me an email with the results, which is nice. But then it also uploads everything to this Link Live portal where all my results go. And then I can sort them and save them and look at the results. It really does help your whole baselining or troubleshooting experience. I'm telling you right now, it saves me a ton of time having it all organized this way. So you might want to think about that with the tool that you choose. Now what I find when I do this type of exercise with people in their real work environment, they get a little overwhelmed. They think things have to be precise. Your first walk around does not need to be like right down to the centimeter. It doesn't have to be that exact. Just have an idea of where you're walking to, approximate distances, just by eyeballing, count the floor tiles, that kind of thing. Just make sure that whatever you measure, you know where you were. So for example, test 1 and 2 was inside. Now where inside? Well, if you really want to know, well, we'll do a blow up or a more specific site survey in that area. So right now, all we're trying to do is walk around and see what the impact distance and having certain materials in the way of the signal impacts the overall signal strength and the noise floor of your measurements. So as you can see, 1 through 10, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and all the various parameters that I'm looking for. These are the most basic things I typically measure. It's going to obviously be the band, the signal strength, the noise, and then signal to noise ratio. So as you walk around, you will see those numbers change. They will change even while you're standing there, they'll be changing. So just get an average or just eyeball it, something like that. But you want to look for consistency. So if the RSSI is negative 54, 53, 55, 52, 56, 53, 54, that kind of in a really tight range with a very small variance, good. But if it's going neg 50, neg 70, neg 30, neg 80, there's something going on there, right? So just keep your eyes open as you walk around. So the heat maps, people like seeing the heat maps just because it's got a cool color and whatnot. One thing about the Link Live portal is it gives you certain ways of displaying that heat map, and it even allows you to change the signal range that you want displayed, which is pretty helpful. But I prefer, not the colors, I prefer just the numbers, and that tells me pretty well everything I need to know. See, now this is another example of being precise. You don't need to know, is it negative 38 right here and out there and down there. If you want that kind of detail, then you'll focus in on that area and you do a site survey on that specific area of interest. But right now you need to understand two things. There's something called a passive and an active survey. I'm not going to get into that right now. I'll do that in a separate video. But right now I did a passive survey, 2.4 gig, because obviously the range will be better than 5 gig. And I walked around and I got the signal strength numbers as I walked around. As I showed you in the other slide, you might want to also maybe write down the noise floor if you'd like, or the signal to noise ratio in various areas. That's also pretty helpful. But right now, just walk around and get this. Now, you can also do this with your cell phone, your laptop, whatever you want, and just get any old app. For example, Homedale is a free app, and you can walk around and measure the signal strength from your laptop, your cell phone. There's Wi-Fi analyzer, all those kind of tools, and get those. Now, people will debate the accuracy of those numbers. And that's not the issue for me. The issue is I want a number, consistent number from a consistent tool from a consistent point. That's what I want. So even if the RSSIs differ between tools, which they will, I want to make sure I document what tool I'm using when I measured that RSSI and or noise floor. So this is the chart people like to look at. This is where the rubber meets the road. Putting all those cool RF statistics aside, your SSI, your noise, your SNR, there's a whole bunch of them, retry counters. What really counts is what kind of throughput did I get. Now, you got to be careful because not all applications are throughput, I'm going to call demanding, right? Some are more latency or jitter sensitive. So you really have to make sure what apps are out there. For example, if I'm trying to run something like a live video feed with possibly a microphone that allows two-way conversation, that is not going to be too throughput sensitive as far as I'm concerned. I want to make sure I'm not losing packets or I don't have a huge jitter value. But in this example, I just want to, as of just a point of illustration, I want to document the throughput. So as I walked around, you could see the first two test points were right inside, right beside the access point, and the numbers were pretty consistent, right? But when you get all the way down here, it's about 70 feet away, you've got a huge difference in throughput, right? That's just one number. And again, I strongly encourage you, when you get these numbers, you always use the real application on the real device, be it a tablet, a phone, a laptop, whatever it happens to be. Make sure you test that to make sure that these numbers work or don't work. Because sometimes these numbers will be, I'm going to say, misleading. You'll think that, hey, this should just rock. And then you get out there and it doesn't. So please, please, please test your apps. Test whatever device you're going to use, and you'll see that in coming up in the next slide. As I'm recording this, I'm realizing just quickly going through these slides isn't going to do each slide justice. So I think I'm going to take each slide separately, and I'm going to make separate sessions with a little bit more detail on each one, but I'm trying to keep this short so you're not sitting here for half an hour. So this is the last test. You take the tool, in this case the NetAlly AirCheck G2, and I took a Samsung, it was an S7, right, my old phone. And I basically did an iPerf from the phone and an iPerf from the AirCheck. And the reason why I did that was I was trying to compare apples and apples. Now, you have to make sure you understand what you're testing. So if you wanted to test for jitter, packet loss, that kind of thing, make sure you run your iPerf in UDP mode. And if you want throughput, you run in TCP mode. So in this case, we just did a TCP test on both, again, just for the sake of comparison. And you could see just 10 feet from the access point, 2.4 gig. The AirCheck had 81 up. Samsung was 61 up. The AirCheck was 82 down, Samsung 69 down. So 20 meg difference right off the bat, right? Both ways. And then you look at the 5 gig band, same kind of thing, right? 82 versus 67, 87 versus 88. See that? That funny down was better than up. And you'll see that a lot, depending on a bunch of factors. Please make sure that whenever you get a chance to test things, you note as much as you can. Another popular thing that I think I've left out till now, the access point load. Are there devices on it? How active are they? That kind of thing is important to make a mental note of, or even a physical note of. Please don't knock yourself out trying to get details, like run a bandwidth test off the Ethernet port of the access point for the last 3 days. You don't need to do that. Just right now, you can just make a note saying there's 3 devices on it, and the average load was 3 megabits per second or something like that. But please, 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 please test with some sort of device that will be used in the field versus your test tool, and that way in the future you'll understand the measurement differences between the tools. So get to know your tool, right? That's something we say a lot on the website. So I hope you enjoyed that, folks. Bye for now.